Welcome to the HR Chat podcast, bringing the best of the HR, talent, and leadership communities to you. For more episodes and the latest articles covering what's new in the world of work, visit hrgazette.com, subscribe and follow us on social media.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. I'm your host today, Bill Banham, and my returning super awesome guest today is Mervyn Dinnen, analyst, influencer, author, and commentator on HR, talent, and WorkTech trends. Based in London, UK, Mervyn partners with HR and recruitment technology businesses to create thought leadership reports that document the emerging trends impacting the hiring, retention, development, and engagement of talent. Hey, Mervyn, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Bill. Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Well, we got you back because you're a clever guy and you say lots of interesting things, and our listeners loved it last time. So we wanted more of the same, but perhaps a little bit different. So maybe we'll skip the intro today because I direct folk to the previous conversation that you and I had. And instead, we're going to get straight into it. Your latest book is called Digital Talent. How do you define that? How do you define that? And what are the key traits that digital talent exhibits?
Thank you, Bill. The book's called Digital Talent, as you've said. And I think what we were looking to do with that was to, having written a book where I think you and I might have discussed previously about how the various processes, the talent journey, if you like, were evolving and changing through tech. What we saw was a period of accelerated digital transformation. And interestingly, started writing the book in late 2019, early 2020. Of course, then the pandemic hit. So what we then saw was everything went on pause for a bit. But what we then saw was this period of accelerated digital transformation. So I suppose the concept of kind of talent, pretty much all talent nowadays in the workplace, is some form of digital talent. And what's important is we don't necessarily prepare people for that. So, a digital transformation is an organizational change, but we don't really prepare people for that and support them as we would do with a normal organizational change. The assumption is as new tech comes into the business, people will embrace it and love it. And a lot of the research that I was involved with was indicating that that maybe wasn't the case. So in terms of analysing digital talent itself, what does it mean? I suppose the first point is that they have intellectual curiosity. They know the jobs are changing. They know the world of work is evolving, and there's this keen interest in learning, I suppose, how their jobs are evolving, what skills they need, and this kind of desire to learn, access to learning and knowledge as and when they need it, as opposed to, at times set by the business. We've known for quite a long time that the main reason somebody will join a company and stay is if they feel they've got the chance to develop, learn, and progress, and learn new skills. And that's kind of digital talent very much embraces that. There's always this thirst for knowledge and this access to what they need to know as and when they need it. Previously, as well, we've often talked about kind of management and direction, performance management and leaders, I suppose, direct their business areas. But when we kind of was doing research amongst the employers themselves, what came through was what they really need is like support and enablement is what we refer to it as. That kind of they want to go and find and develop themselves, and what they need from us is the support and encouragement, and if you like, the platform, the environment to be able to develop and grow. And connection came out as a big important point. That it's kind of the connection between peers, between colleagues, it is highly important to them. In fact, there's a Josh Bursing quote about learning, about a culture of learning, where it's kind of people don't need more content, they need more connection, and that's something we found as well.
We'll be right back to this conversation after this very brief message from today's sponsoring partner. GNOS North America is a team of change makers using emotional intelligence to enhance how we connect, communicate, and collaborate at work. Transforming these essential people skills at work also makes a difference to people's relationships outside of the workplace. People become better parents, partners, siblings, and friends. Learn more at gnosnorthamerica.com. Well, I hope people do need more content, Mervyn. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, we're pumping out 2 to 4 HR chat episodes a week over here, hoping to engage and educate the masses. So, love most of your answer there, but you may have lost me. You may have lost me right at the end, sir. Jeez.
No, but this is connection, Bill. This is you're connecting with them. You know, it's your voice, it's my voice. It's a new way of learning, and it connects them with people. You know, so it's kind of it. Yeah, there is a roundabout way. I'm including podcasts in that.
Okay, all right, phew. So you write about the importance of the digital talent experience, Mervyn, at a time when the Great Resignation has highlighted to most businesses why they need to improve the overall employee experience. Most businesses, I hope pretty much all businesses get that now. What would you say are the key areas that they need to focus on to achieve that, to ensure that they do have an attractive employer brand and that the experience is great and people want to stay with them and they can attract new talent and so forth?
I think that the important point businesses need to understand is that the employee experience isn't something they design and create. It's what the employee experiences. And I think most research, I've seen research from OC Tanner, I've seen research from Deloitte, that, for pretty much 90% plus of employees, they define the employee experience as their everyday experience at work. And I think it's important to understand that it's kind of, we might set up systems, we might arrange teams, we might bring in tech, which we think is really great for the people. But if they have a poor experience of it's kind of, it doesn't matter what our intentions were. And I think that there's a lot of what I would always tell people to concentrate on, and I've written quite a bit about this, is the micro experiences. So it's not so much the overall experience. It's each day, each hour at work is made up of lots of small micro experiences. And there's some work being done on that in the US, Doctors Chip and Dan Heath, about the power of moments. And how kind of a negative experience might make somebody feel very negative, but it doesn't last for a long period, where a positive experience might not, the positive feeling might not be as great as the negative, but it lasts for longer. So a lot of the advice that I get is in the book and that I give people when I speak is to focus on maximizing the positives, as opposed to we spend our time trying to iron out the negatives. And sometimes we just have to accept that they will happen and they're outside our control, and to focus on as many, I suppose, positive interactions as you can.
We'll be right back to this conversation after this very brief message from today's sponsoring partner. GNOS North America is a team of change makers using emotional intelligence to enhance how we connect, communicate, and collaborate at work. Transforming these essential people skills at work also makes a difference to people's relationships outside of the workplace. People become better parents, partners, siblings, and friends. Learn more at gnosnorthamerica.com. You and I were chatting ahead of hitting record today. We're talking a little bit about your involvement at RecFest, where you gave a presentation about the importance of personalization in the candidate and employee experience. How do you see it evolving, Mervyn?
Personalization, I think, is, if you like, is the next step. It's what people experience in their day-to-day lives as consumers, be it buying or just consuming, the kind of entertainment, music, or whatever. It's that they expect, they expect it to be personalized for them. And quite often, I suppose when we're talking the overall talent experience, a lot of the time we're talking about candidate experience and employee experience. And quite often that isn't personalized. I mean, nearly everybody you speak to, you just have to look through Reddit recruiting hell or something, the number of people who get emails, dear first name, last name, things like that. People need something that I think is personalized. They need the experience is important. So, 86% say that the way they're treated during application and interview will impact their decision on whether to join. And over half of people will not apply to a company, even if they're interested in it or the role, if they see negative online reviews. So these things are very important to people. And it's whilst we try and deliver great experiences as candidates and employees, I suppose it's understanding the personalization, the micro experiences, as I said before, that's really important. The moments that matter. It's understanding the moments that matter to employees and candidates, and it's about the experience as opposed to the process. So a lot of organizations look at the process they've designed. I know it's quite a mechanical expression to say the process, but how you go through the hiring phase, how you go through the talent development phase, it's a bit of a process. And what the individual employee wants is something that's very personal to them. So it's like this seamless integration.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is one that Mervyn only announced earlier today, like a couple of hours ago. This is going to be fairly fresh to our listeners. There is a delay between when we record and when we release our episodes, of course, but still I'm pretty proud to get this one in there, given that Mervyn only shouted about it just a few hours ago. So you announced on LinkedIn that you recently partnered with Recruity, Mervyn, and that was to take a look at unbiased hiring and how we can build more diverse recruitment teams. So maybe you can tell us what the findings were and maybe a little bit about how we can eliminate bias from the hiring process to help build a more diverse workforce.
That, as you say, is quite hot off the press, Bill. It only went live. I think Recruity first posted it yesterday, but I've only put it live today. I mean, there's been a lot of research in recent years. We know about the commercial advantages of having a diverse workforce. We know what they are. McKinsey's have done research into this as well. How more profitable they are. Diverse workforces. Yale did some stuff. Found that even scientists who are trained to be objective had biases. They were more like a mix of male and female scientists were more likely to hire men and more likely to consider men to be more competent, even though their skills and achievements might be exactly the same. So it's kind of we know it's there, and we need to, I think, find a way to approach hiring in an unbiased way. And what I see companies beginning to do is to put together hiring teams that themselves are quite diverse, so that you don't have it's not the highest paid person's perspective, or it's not kind of we have 3 hiring managers involved here, and guess what, they're all kind of from the same background, same length of time here. It's just very different. So I think that it's about fairer. It's about kind of reducing human bias by, I suppose, having more people involved. This doesn't mean that you drag the recruitment process on. It's just using, I suppose, the input, the perspectives of different people, using AI whenever you can, to try and get different perspectives to hire best fit candidates. Maybe I interviewed 2 or 3 organizations, and one of them was to do with game-based assessments to identify the real potential. Another one was to do with hiring based on personality, and using anonymization features in the recruitment process. So I think it's important to create as diverse a hiring team as you can, and that interviewers can challenge each other. So you might get 3 or 4 people involved in it, and then you can have the discussion. Kind of why did you feel that? Did you see this side of it or that perspective? And I think that's what's great for the future. I know it sounds complicated, to bring together diverse hiring teams for each major piece of hiring. But I think it's something that will become the norm.
Okay, so there's a way then to bring in a larger group, a more diverse group too, of folks who can be involved within that hiring process. Checking the candidate at an earlier stage, because usually in the earlier stages, it's maybe the hiring manager or a TA professional, an outside recruitment TA expert, and then it goes through stages where you get the second round might involve 2 interviewers, a third round maybe 2, 3, 4. You might meet a couple of members of the team. So to achieve this, Mervyn, are you saying that we need more people involved in the recruitment stages near the beginning?
I don't know that we necessarily need more people, because then it becomes kind of recruitment by committee, and it's kind of we need a quorum at each stage, and we need a consensus at each stage. I think it's just when we're coming down to, I suppose, the final interviews, I suppose a final choice. This obviously, what I'm writing about, I'll take it for granted that we have checked our recruitment processes to make sure they're not biased in terms of the language we use, in terms of making application open to everybody, and those kind of things that I think most organizations now do, so that they're not filtering out good people who maybe don't fit certain criteria that might never be that important to the role they do anyway. But I think when it comes down to the decision time, that's when you need possibly, I say it's not a committee. I don't mean like there's a dozen people involved in this decision, but you just need I suppose, a team of interviewers who are you won't get groupthink. So you have people, maybe a slightly diverse little group of interviewers, who will then challenge each other to try and ensure that I suppose there's no bias. I like that person because we went to the same university, that kind of thing, or that person is like me. I was like that person at that stage in their career, and therefore I'm predisposed to kind of think that they'd be great here, kind of thing. So I suppose there's quite a mix of bias. It can be diversity in terms of gender, ethnicity, age, and stuff, but it also can be just I suppose the bias in how we I suppose perceive others.
Let's talk about a bit of research that you did a while ago. Okay. So
Yes.
earlier this year, you were involved in research into corporate well-being initiatives. Can you take a minute or two now and tell us how well do you think businesses support their employees' well-being, and maybe what are some of the best approaches or interventions that you've seen?
I think that this is currently a topic which is very top of mind for most organizations. I know that the discussions I've had recently at various events, now we are back at in-person events, have led me to think that this is being taken more seriously, that people know that, organizations know they need to support their people's well-being. Certainly there was some stuff from LinkedIn, and I'll have to think off the top of my head now, about the increase in the number of posts mentioning well-being, an increase in applications to job adverts that mention it as well. I think that, what the research found is what did people do early in the pandemic, and how are they planning to change it for, I suppose, post-pandemic 2022 and beyond. And I think because the pandemic was sudden, it was a health pandemic, it was very personal to individuals. What most organizations were doing was just keeping in touch. So people suddenly were working from home, they weren't coming into a space altogether. And there were these daily check-ins with managers, supervisors, just calling people, just checking in, how are they doing? How are they feeling? Is there anything they need? Is there any support they need? That kind of thing. And then you found that there were kind of quite regular, as I think that a lot of people in lockdown found that when they were split from their friends, they did things like use the house party app, start getting together on a regular basis. And I think that what I found from running some round tables is organizations were doing this as well. So colleagues in a team who suddenly weren't seeing each other were getting together over, a coffee Zoom for half an hour, swapping stories of their lives. It could be recipes, could be their pets, just recreating the water cooler moments, if you know what I mean. I think one of the things that coming out of that companies have been investing in is this kind of approach of training or helping managers to become, the expression is mental health first aiders. Because quite often we're not best placed to be able to identify in other people, particularly ones we know well, when they might be struggling, when they might need a little bit of help and support. People aren't always that open about it, particularly in a work environment. They won't want to be. And so certainly a number of companies, when we were talking about what people wanted to do moving forward, was this investment in helping managers, senior people to become, as I say, mental health first aiders, being able to just understand when somebody might need a little bit of help and support, might be struggling a bit, but doesn't want to say. And certainly I delivered a presentation to heads of TA, talent acquisition, a couple of months ago, and loads of them afterwards came up and said, we've identified that, we just kind of carried on as normal, just doing it over the phone and over Zoom and stuff, without realizing that people might have needed more support. One of the interesting things was that we were looking at different types of well-being and how important companies thought they were at the beginning, and how important they were moving forward. And kind of mental well-being, emotional and physical well-being was seen as hugely important. The one that had changed was intellectual well-being, which at the beginning of the pandemic, people admitted they didn't see as important as kind of, mental well-being and personal support. But moving forward, it was joint most important, or seen as the joint most important form of well-being to invest in, alongside mental well-being. So I think there is a recognition, a little bit like I said earlier about digital talent with the intellectual curiosity and stuff. There is this I think recognition that our people do want to learn, they do want to know, and that they need the support, I suppose, to learn and develop their knowledge and their skills and capabilities.
Okay, thank you, Mervyn. Mervyn, we're coming towards the end of this chit chat already, but you and I were, before hitting record, conspiring to find other ways to record conversations together very soon. So I'm sure we would be back together before you know it, listeners. Before we do wrap up for today, 2 more questions for you. The next one's a biggie, but I'm going to challenge you to answer in 60 seconds or less. Just because I'm in
you
that
don't know me
mood.
well, Bill, do you? 60 minutes,
and our
maybe.
listeners, well, our listeners like these interviews tight here now. So in 60 seconds or less, here we go. Given a possible recession, Mervyn, what are your predictions for the labour market in the UK and elsewhere in 2023? And just before you answer, let me just preface by saying this is, if it happens, it's going to be an incredibly unusual recession. Okay, go.
Okay, I think there will be a recession. I think that it will be an unusual one because it will be a skilled short recession, because we certainly in the UK we can't fill the jobs we have. There aren't enough people here, or there aren't enough people ready to be trained up. During the Great Resignation, as it's called, we've seen people exit the workforce because they've been in a position to do so. So I think there will be problems. I think that in a recession, we might see companies investing more in technology and maybe things like AI and finding ways to maybe overcome the fact that they can't find the skills and the people they need.
I would completely agree with that. That was extremely articulate. It was well under 60 seconds. Mervyn, you're invited back to do a 3rd interview on the HR Chat Show. Before we do wrap up for today, so how can our listeners connect with and learn more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn as Mervyn Dinnen. Nobody else has that name. I'm the only one, as far as I'm aware. Or on Twitter at Mervyn Dinnen. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. I don't really do any work-related stuff on that. Anybody is welcome to email me at mervyndinnen@gmail.com. and I'm regularly sharing through those various platforms, what I'm working on and kind of my latest research and stuff.
Excellent. Mervyn, you are a gentleman. I always enjoy a chance getting to chat with you. So for today, thank you very much for being my guest on this episode of the HR Chat Show.
Bill, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, and you batted away those extra tough questions. So even more respect to you, sir. And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. There are hundreds of conversations with business experts available for free on the HR Gazette website, Apple, Spotify, and all the main platforms. And remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media.